So standing with a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and many other high praises from critics, is Godzilla Minus One truly the masterpiece that everyone is saying it is? I absolutely think it is. Godzilla Minus One was made with a budget of $15 million, and relatively compared to most blockbusters nowadays, where they spend about 200 to 300 million for these bombastic visual effects, this movie is very impressive with its visual effects and visual style. Every shot in this movie has something that's always based on that character. When Godzilla scenes happen, the shots are more intense. When it's around our main characters, the shots seem to be more intimate and more close up. Well deserved, considering the fact that this movie is a very intimate story between all of these characters and its themes. Godzilla Minus One takes place right after the Japanese lose World War II. There's the main character of Shigashima, who was supposed to be a kamikaze pilot who fails to do his mission, encountering Godzilla on Odo Island, a very early on version of Godzilla at that, pre-radiated, and eventually becomes radiated later in the movie as Japan starts to rebuild after being in a 0 point, and then becomes a negative when Godzilla attacks Japan once again. Shigashima has to deal with his own personal demons in the movie and continue to fight the war that he has never officially won within himself. One thing about this movie that might throw off a lot of fans of the Godzilla franchise who watch these movies strictly for Godzilla is the fact that this story is not a Godzilla story. There's Godzilla in this movie, but it's very much an intimate human story. It deals with heavy themes of war and is very anti-war and anti-kamikaze in its themes, reflected in the characters. Godzilla Minus One has hands down the best human characters in any Godzilla movie that I've seen. I've seen every Godzilla movie, ranging from all the way back to the Showa era, Heisei, Showa, Millennium, and even the anime trilogy, which is pretty terrible. However, without a doubt, this story is very much centered on very specific themes that fits each individual character. Our main character being Shigashima, who is a ex-kamikaze pilot who feels survivor's guilt. He has not fulfilled what he thinks is his purpose. He is so tortured by the war due to the fact that he had the opportunity to kill Godzilla earlier on. He fled his kamikaze mission to state that his plane was damaged so he can avoid dying. All these themes, he thinks that he should die in the movie because he feels like that's his only purpose at this point. He's tortured by the fact that he did not fulfill the mission that was given to him, and he's an outcast by many people. Many people look at him and essentially say, you're a failure because you failed to fulfill your mission. They blame him for the deaths of other people that happened, even though he really had no control over that. Stating things such as, if you would have just died, these people over here would have lived. Your own family would have lived. These are very deep, dark concepts for a Godzilla movie, a monster movie at that. But there are opposing characters who oppose this view that he has, such as Noriko. Noriko is, I guess, the romantic interest in this movie, which is a very different take on a romantic tale in a movie. They don't say I love you at any point in this movie, nor do they ever kiss at all in this movie. It's just that this family is kind of thrown on him in the movie. They encounter each other in very interesting circumstances, and then they start to form a family that's not really, he doesn't really feel like it's earned or that he should really have. It's just kind of given to him, and it becomes his new responsibility. There's even points in the movie where he's tortured by the aspect that he could have happiness with his family. He feels like he doesn't deserve it. He hasn't earned it. He actually is wondering at some points in his life if he's actually dead, and all of this is just playing out for him, and he's just being tortured over and over. But Noriko is a really good character because, again, she's there to be that support, to let him know, no, you should live. And you have so much more to live for. You shouldn't have to let this past mistake or what you view as being a mistake determine what you're going to be doing with your future or what you strive towards the future. And talking about the character that has probably tortured him the most in the movie, we are going to talk about Godzilla. Godzilla in this movie, like I said, is not the center of this movie. It's very much centered on the characters, but boy, when he's on screen, he adds that extra icing on top of the cake in every scene he's in. This depiction of Godzilla is not a quote-unquote force of nature like many other versions of the character. It's much more of a destructive monster. At the beginning of the film, before he's radiated Godzilla, he starts off in this very T-Rex-like form, and he just starts killing people for no reason. He's very destructive from the beginning, and a nuke that goes off and scars him permanently makes him twice as destructive, 4 times as destructive as he was before. He is a menace in this movie. He will even intentionally change paths to go after different people who, quite frankly, piss him off for no reason. Many great shots on this character, great eerie music to match with his scenes as he's attacking Ginza. And Ginza is the main action piece in the movie, but I think my personal favorite action piece is in fact the boat chase scene, where you have Godzilla chasing a big rank-a-tank ship and just chasing them Jaws style, which in and of itself is terrifying. I mean, you see that shot of him above the water and you just think, oh my god. Terror. There's one thing that this Godzilla has invoked in this movie, and that is terror. Placing Japan from 0 to negative in a matter of just a few short minutes in this movie is terrifying. The concept that you work so hard to achieve something, to rebuild what you had lost and start to rebuild, and have that all taken away in an instant. The idea that you feel like you can live, like Shigashima at one point in this movie feels like, I'm gonna give life a chance. And then to suddenly have that stripped away from him so quickly in a matter of minutes is a terrifying concept. The action complements all of these themes very, very well in this movie. The action is inventive, it's creative, but most importantly, it's terrifying. This is not the hero version of Godzilla that we're used to. This is clearly the villain, a destructive force coming in, tearing everything up, and the action is just the complement to this movie. But ultimately, even though these things I'm talking about are terrifying and there's some good action in this movie, and yes, the atomic breath is awesome because it is like a nuke. At the heart of this movie, again, it's a very intimate story with these characters. Drama. This movie is not an action movie, it's a drama. It very much plays out like a drama. Many of the moments play out like a drama. It's very intimate with its characters. It plays on different themes, their mindsets, the way they view the world, the way they view other characters. The biggest character arc in the movie besides Shigashima was the mechanic from the beginning of the movie who survived the Odo Island attack. Went from the beginning of the movie completely blaming Shigashima for not killing Godzilla, letting all of his fellow mechanics die, to eventually seeing that Shigashima has a family of his own and realizes that kamikaze may not be the best route to go. He wants him to live by the end of the movie. Going from the point where you want somebody to die so much and to have committed a kamikaze to the point where you want him to live at the end of the movie is a great character arc, and I found that to be a very, very important moment in the movie. And there's so many concepts and ideas in here that are so fantastic. Especially, I cannot talk enough about Shigashima and his relationship with the boat crew that were hunting the mines in the ocean. He forms a relationship with that crew to the point where even they tell him, look, You've been given a family, whether you like it or not. At least get a chance to live. Give yourself a chance to live. Live for them. The music. The music in -1 also complements the film incredibly well. There are many sequences where the music creates a sense of eeriness, intense situations, or even hopefulness in situations where you think things will turn out better. And there was one track in this movie, I believe it was called Elegi or Elegi, I think was probably my favorite track in the whole movie, outside of the standard use of the original Godzilla themes, of course. Also, one thing I was very happy about when watching this was the fact that it was very anti-war and it was anti-kamikaze, because I've seen a bunch of Japanese movies glorify the kamikaze, but the fact that this movie has a theme of live and forgiveness and moving on to better the future, I love that this movie was anti-kamikaze. It was not a celebrated thing. The characters in the movie, at the beginning of the movie, said it was an honor to die like that, but as the movie progresses, you see people's mindsets begin to shift and go gear towards more of the living mindset. Even to the point where at the end of the movie, the mechanic basically has an ejector seat for Shigashima when they need to take out Godzilla. And that was a very beautiful concept, and it was executed very well. I was rooting for these characters all the way through this movie. So the biggest question again is this movie a masterpiece? Yes, it is. I think that this movie was exactly what I've been asking for years, and that is a definitive Godzilla movie. I wanted them to bring the character back to his destructive roots and to make him a terrifying force of destruction like how it used to be in the first movie. And they accomplished that and went above and beyond that, even creating characters more relatable and more intimate than even the first movie. The first movie and this one are two completely different movies, so I can't exactly say for sure which one is better, but what I can tell you is the fact that if you're looking for a very solid, good human story with a very good horror touch to it, a good love romance story attached to that, and on top of that, good themes that also strive towards the future, this is pretty much it right here. And the fact that a Godzilla movie is saying more than 90% of the movies that have come out this year is crazy. And I can say without a doubt that Godzilla -1 is 2023's, or at least one of 2023's best movies of the year.